Welcome to the first episode of From the Crucible. This is shorter conversations, mostly me, where I am talking about things that have intrigued me the last few days, maybe the last few years, maybe longer, who knows. But this is just thoughts, conversations, and ideas, maybe answers to questions that people have asked me or I have found on social media. So it's basically me musing about life, my perspective, my understanding, and what I have learned in the 53 years that I have traipsed this current lifetime. I wanted to talk today about Quitter's Day. This is something I put on Facebook on Friday, and Quitter's Day basically turned up in beginning of 2019 when Strava did some extensive research on their fitness, on all their people who made these promises and commitments to get fit, get healthy, run a marathon, do all this kind of stuff. And Strava basically went through everything and realized that by week 2, 80% of people had given up on their goals and their dreams and their New Year's resolutions. I put it out on Facebook, slightly frivolous, just because I've got various friends who go to the gym and they have been moaning and whinging about the gym is full of people sitting on the machines, taking selfies, doing this, saying, look at me, I'm back in the gym. And by this weekend, they will find the gyms are much quieter. Why is that? Why do we give up? I mean, and I suppose more importantly, is giving up a bad thing? Certainly for me, giving up has not been a bad thing. Those of you who know my story know that I gave up alcohol just over 6 years ago. And that was probably the hardest thing I've done until I had to start living sober. And that was tough. It still is tough. It's also incredibly beautiful. But when we go back to giving up things, I think it's really important to look at why we actually did them. What was the motivation for getting fit? Was I going to go to the gym every day for a hard workout, burn 1,000 calories every day, and do this unachievable goal, this expectation which was impossible, unrealistic, too hard on myself, all that kind of thing. So there's all sorts of reasons why we actually set a hearty goal, set a New Year's resolution, and stick to it for a couple of weeks, and we go for it, and then it just gets too much. It's too heavy, it's too stressful, it's too unrealistic, and we give up. And then we shame ourselves, I couldn't do it, can't do it, I'm pathetic, I'm useless, I'm this, I'm that. Not actually realizing that 90% of the time, the goals that we actually set ourselves are unstructured. They're not realistic. They're not time-based. They are not even thought about, and certainly not planned. I mean, how can I plan to go to the gym 5 days a week when I've got work, when I've got this, when I've got that, when I've got kids, when I've got to take them from the school, pick them back up from school, when I've got a husband, when I've got a wife, when I've got a million things to do? How am I going to fit that all in? Didn't think about that, and that's just the way it goes. When I look at my goals and expectations for this year, they're fairly simple. I'm going to get a van. I'm going to either buy one that is ready converted, or I will get it converted, and I'm going to live in that for 6 months. I'm going to drive around the west coast of Ireland, and I'm going to, if there's time, do a lot of Scotland as well. I want to go to the ancient ruins and see the standing stones, feel the energy in these places where people from thousands of years ago venerated nature, where they did all this kind of stuff. Now, is that the goal? Is that an anticipation? Is it a New Year's resolution? It's something I've thought about. It's something that I have committed to. It's something that I have said, in order to get to this final point, I have to start here. I've got to work. I've got an income. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And I have planned it out in great detail. Is it achievable? Yes, it really is achievable. Is it likely? Yes, it is. Will it require a lot of hard work? Yes. And if I start doing it in May when I want to go in June, it's not going to happen. So I have had to look at what I want to achieve and go, is it really important to me? Is it really, really that important to me? Yes, I want to run a half marathon as well. I want to do this. I want to do that. I can't do all those things. I can do some of them. If I was in my 20s, I could do an awful lot more. I'm not, thankfully. And that means I've just got to sort of take things a little bit more carefully. And if I don't actually get that, it's not the end of the world. It's a case of not beating myself up, not trying to do things which are so unrealistic and so demanding and on my time and my effort and on my resources and all sorts of things. So that goal of mine to get this van and travel is as guaranteed as I can make it, because I know what I want to do. I know how I want to do it. I've actually structured my work around that. So once I have got this van, I can carry on doing the podcast. I can carry on sharing incredible stories. I can carry on finding amazing people to listen to, share stories of hope and things like that. I've built my business around working from the back of a van. Get a satellite dish, pick up the internet. Thank you very much, Mr. Musk. And off I go. I have thought about this and I'm determined to do it. Are there sacrifices? There are, of course. I'm going to have to eat frugally so I can save the money. I'm going to have to do various other things. I'm also going to have to look at ways of minimizing my expenditure. And that's fine. But I'm planning this as a vision, as a purpose, as a lifestyle. And I don't have kids. I don't have those dependents, so I can do that. Is it realistic? I think it is. I think it is highly realistic. And I think the reason that it is going to work is because I want it. I want to do that. It's by far the most important thing that I want to do. I want to go and see and experience. I want to travel. I want to see beautiful places. Part of my purpose on this lifetime is to remind people there is beauty out there, because there is. Every person is beautiful. Their soul, their heart is beautiful. We've just forgotten. We have these demands from society to be this, be beautiful, have the facelift, have the hair, do the eyes, do the nose, get the muscles, all this kind of stuff. So much expectation to do that. And, these make us forget how incredible we are. They make us forget that we are actually amazing. And there is beauty out there. Yes, there is horror, there is terror, but there is that beauty. And that beauty comes from kindness, from love, from connecting, from not being a victim, from loving people, from doing our best. And our best hasn't got to be 100%. Our best hasn't even got to be perfect. It's just showing up and saying, hey, I'm here. How are you? And that is beautiful. And when you stop to look at people and listen to people, you hear that beauty, you hear that magic, you hear that yearning for peace, for love for their children, love for their siblings, love for their parents, love for friends, love for work, love for colleagues, love for all sorts of things. And part of my podcast, part of my being is to remind people there is beauty there. I was chatting with a friend the other day and, we were talking about, the world is getting more polarized. There is more hate. There is more fear. There is more ugliness. There is more disgust, disdain, and violence and anger and rage. And at the same time, there is more beauty. I think there is a line and it does that. And as one gets higher, the other one gets lower. As there is more violence and hatred and polarism and this, that, and the other, there is more beauty, there is more love, there is more compassion. There are more people waking up and realizing that society is not working properly. The expectations from schools, from business are take. And it's not possible. It is not working. We can't live like that. And so my podcast, my purpose is to remind people that there is beauty out there, to connect with people, to share, to remind people that there are so many people who are living beautifully. They are living with care and love and connection. And that's what the podcast is about. The podcast is about finding these people. If you look back at some of those stories, you've got Dan who was drinking and driving, had DUI and this, that, and the other, and he realized that wasn't working. And he sobered up and he is doing incredible things. If you find him on social media, he is creating AI-based chatbots for people with dementia. You look at Al, similar story. lost all sorts of stuff because he was drinking, because life wasn't working for him, because he was struggling. And he made sense of things. And now he has a podcast telling people, sharing stories like me, and bringing hope, bringing that beauty, reminding everybody that there is beauty, there is love, there is magic, there is more than just hope. There is just the potential to be an incredible human is out there. It takes a bit of resources. It takes a bit of time. It takes forgiveness of self, very much so, and of other people. It also takes quitting. It takes quitting the nonsense. It takes quitting bad behavior. It takes quitting shaming yourself. It takes quitting hurting yourself, letting yourself down and feeling bad about it. It takes quitting being ugly, being aggressive, being violent. I'm not saying don't be dangerous. You have to protect yourself, and you have to have that capacity to be wise, to be able to protect yourself verbally, physically if necessary, but also not to be walked over. It's boundaries. There's so much we could talk about. And, the idea for this section is not to go into everything in one go, but it is to say, so you quit. So you've been to the gym for 2 weeks and it's impossible. That's okay. Yeah. Step back, reassess. What was important? Was it that important? If it was, what can you do to get there? Chances are, if anything like some of my New Year's resolutions from years gone past, I will never drink again. I will do this. I will do that. They're not possible simply because I hadn't thought it through. I hadn't planned it. I hadn't put some structure and form into it. And gone hell to leather, flat out, forgetting about the first few days of January, our holiday, getting over things. There's determination. There's this. Then it's cold. Then it's wet. Then it's back to school for the kids. Then it's back to work. Then it's this. And then you get a cold. Then you get sick. And then everything slowly falls apart. And it's bugger. Beat myself up. Shame myself. Give up. Start eating. Start drinking. Start doing this. Fuck it all off. Whatever. When really it's, were those expectations realistic? Were those plans realistic? People now don't like to set New Year's resolutions because it's so old-fashioned. They call it goals, they call it this, whatever. It's just playing with words. I think the important thing to realize is that it's not worth beating yourself up for anything. There's nothing wrong with having that really good goal. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to get strong. Nothing wrong with it. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do this. Go for it. 100% go for it. I'm going for that van. I'm going for the podcast. I'm going for my business being travel anywhere, work from my van. Thank you very much. Watch the sunset. That is my goal. And I'm going to go for it. Plan it. Work it out. And if something doesn't work, fair enough. What's the next thing? Life's about experiences. Life's about quitting when you've had enough. Why stay in that relationship if it's toxic? Why stay in that situation if it's not working? What can you do to fix it? Do you need to fix it? Do you need to move on? We could touch on so many things here, but we're not going to. But basically, I want to say Happy Quitter's Day. And if you've quit, don't beat yourself up. Look at why you did, what the reasons were for it. Look at whether your actual expectations were realistic. And if they weren't, sit back, go a pen and paper, write it down, write what you want to do, the steps, the expectations, the construct a plan, and things like that. So I think that is the end of this message. Happy Quitter's Day. Quit with pride. Quit knowing that what you set out to do was too hard, was unrealistic, was not going to work in that form. Rephrase it, rewire it, rewrite it, and try again. We've learned from those mistakes. We've learned from not succeeding that way. And you'll be more focused. You'll be more determined. You'll make it. Or you might realize that you don't actually like running. You'd rather go swimming. Or you'd rather cycle. Try these things. But Happy Quitter's Day. Quit while you're ahead. Quit before it gets too hard. Quit before it breaks you, because there's plenty more opportunities out there to try again. Learn from those. I don't want to call them mistakes. Learn from those events. Learn from what you've experienced, because that's what life's about. It's about experiencing. It is about experiencing the magic of every day, about seeing the beauty beyond the noise, about listening to what other people say. And is that right? Does that resonate with me? If so, great. If not, fine. Yeah. Just because there's somebody else doesn't think the way that you think doesn't mean they're wrong. They're just them. You're just you. So yeah, happy Quishers Day.